I was 23 when I went back to Hemlock Hill for the first time since I was a kid. My childhood friend Marcus used to live in a massive Victorian house at the top of that hill. The kind of place that looks like it's always waiting to star in a horror movie. Faded blue paint, broken shutters, a sagging porch. It had sat empty for years after Marcus's family moved out, until he inherited it in 2021 after his dad passed away. Marcus was always obsessed with Halloween. Every year, he'd turn the house into this ridiculous haunted attraction, complete with fog machines, strobe lights, props, even hired actors once. I hadn't been there since we were 16, when one of the older kids in our group broke a window and Marcus's dad shut it all down. That same kid overdosed a few months later, and things were never the same after that. Fast forward to last Halloween, and Marcus was back in town. He'd cleaned up the old house, at least enough to host a party, and he texted our whole group with a simple invite. One last Halloween at Hemlock, come if you dare. Costumes mandatory. I'll admit, I hesitated, but nostalgia's a hell of a drug, and when you're 20-something, any excuse to party feels like the right one. So I went. There were about 20 of us. Some old faces, Julia, Mark, Savannah, and some new ones I didn't recognize. Everyone had a red Solo cup, everyone was laughing, and the music was blasting through those paper-thin walls. Marcus had gone all out with the decorations again. Fake blood, mannequins, fog in the hallway. He even rebuilt that homemade haunted maze in the basement, this time with actual plywood instead of cardboard. I was catching up with Julia in the kitchen when it started. Two loud, boom boom sounds from somewhere deep in the house. It didn't sound like fireworks or part of the music. It sounded like pounding. Heavy, deliberate. People paused, then laughed it off. Probably part of the haunted house, someone said. But I knew Marcus. He never repeated scares. And I saw his face when the second bang happened. He wasn't smiling. Then someone screamed. And then another. It was coming from the basement, the maze. Marcus took off toward the stairs without a word, pushing through the crowd. I followed. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Half the party tried to follow too, while the other half headed for the exits. I heard glass breaking somewhere. People were panicking. When I got to the basement stairs, I saw Marcus frozen at the top, gripping the rail. "What is it?" I asked. He didn't answer, just turned around and shoved me backward. "Upstairs, lock a door, hide," he said. "What?" "They're not actors," he whispered. "Someone's in the maze, with a gun." I didn't ask more, I just ran. We piled into Marcus's old bedroom. Me, Julia, Mark, Savannah, and two guys I didn't know by name. Marcus stayed downstairs. Said he had to make sure no one else was trapped in the maze. He locked the door behind him. We killed the lights, we turned off our phones. I crawled under the bed. Savannah hid in the closet. Julia was behind the curtains, barely breathing. That's when the music shut off, and we heard the front door slam. Then, a voice. A man's voice. Cold, steady, echoing up the staircase. "Everyone, in the living room, now. Or we start pulling people out of closets." Then footsteps. Heavy. Controlled. Not rushing. Hunting. Someone tried the doorknob, locked. Then came the first gunshot. The door blew open, and everything after that felt like a nightmare. The door burst open with a sound like a cannon. Splinters flew across the room, and everyone in Marcus's old bedroom screamed. I bit my fist to keep from making noise, heart slamming against my ribs. Through the fabric draped over the edge of the bed, I saw the boots first. Heavy, black, military style. Mud still caked along the edges. They didn't rush in, just stood there for a second, waiting. Then, a low chuckle. "I know you're in here," the voice said. Male, mid-30s maybe, calm but cold, and distorted. A voice changer? He moved toward the closet first, opened it. I heard Savannah gasp before she was yanked out and thrown to the floor. He didn't speak to her, just grabbed her by the hair and dragged her toward the hallway. Julia whimpered from behind the curtain, and I saw the boots pause. Turn. He walked over to the window and pulled the curtain aside. She screamed. I almost shot out from under the bed, but someone, one of the guys maybe, grabbed my ankle and shook their head violently. "Don't move." The man grabbed Julia by the throat and shoved her toward the hallway too. We heard more shouting from downstairs, followed by a girl crying hysterically. Something smashed. Glass, maybe? And then silence. Mark whispered, "We have to get out." "There's more than one of them," I said. "How do you know?" "I saw someone else at the kitchen door before I ran up." We waited in that silence for a long time. I thought the man was still outside the room, listening, watching. Then we heard the voice again through what sounded like a megaphone or speaker. "Congratulations! You made it to the final round." Another voice chimed in, more aggressive, unhinged. "You're going to play a little game." And then the rules began. All survivors must bring their most valuable possession to the living room. If you lie, we'll know. You have 2 minutes. It was like a horror movie, a bad one. But it was real. The 2 strangers with us ran first. I never even learned their names. They didn't make it. We heard the shots, 1, 2, then screams. Julia shouted from below, "Just do what they say, please." Mark looked at me. "What do we do?" I didn't answer. I reached under the bed, grabbed the metal baseball bat Marcus used to keep in his room, and stood up. "You 2 stay here," I whispered. "If I'm not back in 10, find a way out." Mark tried to stop me, but I was already out the door. The hallway was empty, but the light flickering at the end showed movement downstairs. Shadows of 2, maybe 3 dead figures pacing around the living room. I crept along the wall, step by step, and that's when I saw Marcus. He was kneeling, hands on his head. One of the masked men was standing behind him with a pistol pressed to the back of his skull. And then the worst part, he was talking to them. Like he knew them, like they were arguing. I ducked down behind the banister, listened. "I told you I didn't have it anymore," Marcus said. "You said it was still in the safe," the man growled. "They sold it when my dad died, I swear to God." Another masked man, this one shorter with a thick accent, spat on the ground. "You're going to make us kill all these kids for nothing, huh?" Marcus pleaded. "They didn't know, please. Just let them go." "You made a deal," the tall one said. "You thought you could hide from it. But debts always come back." I didn't understand it. A deal? A debt? And then one of them said something I'll never forget. "You know what they say about Hemlock Hill. The ground always gives back what it's owed." I backed up slowly. My heart was pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. I made it to the top of the stairs before the third masked man appeared behind me. He wasn't tall. In fact, he looked barely older than me, but the machete in his hand made him 10 feet tall in my eyes. I didn't think. I swung. The bat cracked against his arm and he yelped, dropping the blade. I ran, slammed the door shut behind me and barricaded it with the dresser. "They're not here to rob us," I said, breathless. "This is something else." "Where's Marcus?" Mark asked. "They've got him." "What do we do?" Savannah whispered. I looked out the window, saw headlights flickering in the trees. "There's a car out back, the gravel lot. We'll never make it. We have to try." Julia was still downstairs. maybe others too, but we couldn't save everyone. Not tonight. Mark opened the window. It was a 10-foot drop to the back porch roof, then a few more feet to the ground. Not ideal, but better than being marched into a living room death ceremony. One by one, we climbed out, and that's when I heard the scream. Not Savannah's, not Julia's. Marcus. I didn't think. I leapt off the roof, hit the ground hard, and took off toward the back lot, my sneakers crunching over broken gravel. Behind me, I heard the others land one by one. Mark cursing under his breath. Savannah letting out a sharp cry as she twisted her ankle. We had seconds. Maybe less. Then came Marcus's scream again. Louder, more desperate. It cut off suddenly, like a switch had been thrown. I stopped. Mark grabbed my arm. Keep going. No. I can't leave him. Are you insane? He tried to help us. He tried to warn me. I shoved Mark off, turned, and ran back toward the house. The front porch was lit now. Lanterns, fire. I couldn't tell. The music was playing again. Some twisted carnival-sounding remix of a children's lullaby. The front door was wide open. I crept inside. The living room was empty now. The red solo cups, the scattered costume pieces, all trampled. Bloody footprints tracked across the wood floor. At the far end of the room, the basement door stood open. A faint glow came from below, and chanting, low, rhythmic, like a prayer. I gripped the bat tighter and descended the stairs. The haunted maze had been torn apart, plywood walls splintered. The fog machine still spat out mist, but it was thinner now, showing glimpses of movement deeper inside. And in the center of it all, under a flickering lantern, I saw them. 4 masked figures, standing in a circle, and Marcus tied to a chair in the middle. His face was bruised, bloody, but he was alive. One of the masked men, the one with the tall frame and vendetta mask, held a worn, leather-bound book. He was reading from it, Latin, or something that sounded like it. Another held a knife. They hadn't seen me yet. Then I stepped on a piece of glass. It crunched. Every head turned. "Stop!" I shouted. "Let him go." The tall man stepped forward. "You shouldn't be here." "Screw you," I said, raising the bat. "You want someone? Take me." He laughed. "We already did." The others began to close in, slowly, confidently. That's when Marcus looked up at me. His eyes were wild, wet with tears. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never told you what this house really is." "What are you talking about?" He choked on blood. "My dad didn't just die. He was taken. The hill. The ground. It feeds." The man with the knife raised his blade. I charged. Everything happened fast. Screams, a struggle. The bat cracked against the skull. Someone fell. Marcus was screaming and "Run, just run!" But I didn't. I grabbed the rope around his wrists, sawed it with the jagged edge of the broken bat handle. One of the masked men grabbed my shoulder, spun me around, but Marcus launched himself out of the chair and tackled him to the ground. "Upstairs!" I yelled. We burst out of the basement, through the front door, and down the hill. Savannah and Mark were in the car. Mark leaning on the horn, yelling my name. I dove in through the open door, Marcus right behind me. Mark didn't ask questions. He just drove. Tires screeched. Gravel sprayed. We didn't stop until we hit the main road and saw the blinking red lights of a gas station. Only then did anyone speak. What the hell happened? Mark gasped. Marcus was quiet. Then he looked at me, hands shaking, and said something I'll never forget. My family made a pact a long time ago, back when this town was nothing but forest and fear. They wanted wealth, power, and they got it. But the deal had a cost. He paused, looked down. Every decade, blood owed, 4 souls. The hill feeds and the family lives on. That's the price. You brought us there, I said, my voice cracking. You knew. I thought I could stop it, Marcus said. I thought I could end it, but they found out. They always do. Savannah was crying now. Mark stared blankly out the window. And then Marcus said something even worse. They're not done. What? It doesn't end with me. The deal resets. The house. The hill. It remembers everyone who steps inside. A silence fell over the car. Then I noticed something. A sound. From the trunk. A faint thumping. Mark looked at me. Please tell me that's not... I opened the back. The pig mask, one of them had made it out. And they were still with us.